Spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning, you're about to enter the spoiler zone. If you do not want to be spoiled for episode 3 of WandaVision, please leave quickly.
Hi everyone and welcome back to The Upside Dan. Here we are in another episode of my new segment, Deep Dive with the Upside. And as with last episode when we went through episode 1 and 2 of WandaVision, which you can check out right up there, as well as the spoiler-free review of this episode, episode 3, we are going into a spoiler recap and spoiler review, my spoiler thoughts on WandaVision episode 3. I did mention that I had a non-spoiler review for episode 3, and honestly, that's kind of a regret of mine. Like, after I posted it, I was like, this video is kind of unnecessary. I should have just done this deep dive, on the day that it came out, instead of doing a non-spoiler review at all. So, of course, that's what I'm going to do from now on. It's just these deep dives. I'm going to try to get those out as early as I can for you guys. That is a regret of mine, but I can't change that. I don't have Wanda's, powers. I can't rewind time. But what I can do is fix this color.
Much better. In WandaVision episode 3, Wanda's pregnancy fritzes her powers as she and Vision prepare for an accelerated delivery. Just so you guys all know, there are time codes down in those comment sections. It's a pinned comment. It's also in the description. Just like my, first deep dive, I have time codes for specific parts. So if you want to skip to those parts, just go check out those time codes. Now, before I get into my deep dive on episode 3 of WandaVision, I just really need you guys down in those comment sections. Start up a conversation with me about WandaVision. I love talking about it. Please blow up those comment sections. I put a lot of work into these deep dives, so please give this video a like if you liked what I've had to say throughout it. And please share this with any WandaVision fan in your life. And of course, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you can come to the Upside Dan. As I said, I did my first deep dive on the first 2 episodes, and you could check that out right there. There's a playlist for all my WandaVision content. Please check that out if you haven't. And if you're going to leave this video, please come back. A link to that playlist will be, of course, in the end screen and in the description below, and of course, on my channel page. Please, like and follow the Upside Dan on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram so you can stay up to date. I am also on Letterboxd now. So now, let's get deep diving with the Upside. WandaVision episode 3 was directed by Matt Shakman. It was written by McDonnell. I just want to make a clarification. The second episode of WandaVision was actually written by Gretchen Enders. I said it was by Jack Schaeffer, who's the creator and who wrote the first episode. Let's get right into this with this theme song. I'm going to be getting into an even deeper dive with this theme song than I did in the previous video. There's just so much to go through, and honestly, after watching the first 2 episodes and this episode, I've seen all 3 episodes 3 times. After watching them, I'm looking for everything. I'm looking at everything. I'm trying to, think about what could be happening, So that's what I've been doing, so there is going to be more deep dive in this video. So I hope you're looking forward to it. Let's get into that 70s theme song. So first of all, this episode is really, emulating, it is paying homage to sitcoms of the 70s, just like, the second episode did sitcoms of the 60s, and the first episode did sitcoms of the 50s. This is going for, a very Brady Bunch and Mary Tyler Moore show kind of vibe, and you could definitely see, especially the Brady Bunch, in this opening theme song intro. Let me get right into these lines. Together, 1 + 1 is more than 2. A lot of good foreshadowing in this theme song, and that is foreshadowing, the birth. She's having twins, as we know from the comics, if you guys are familiar with those. Another line is, we've got something cooking and it's looking good. I took that as a very meta kind of statement. It is showing, this show, yes, for some people it may have started out slow and it's mostly just sitcoms so far, with little, things that take us out of it and symbols all over, but not everyone's noticing them. And even me, I'm not noticing everything the first time. You notice so much more and you hear so much more from other people in other articles. Anyway, so I think that line is definitely meta for this is gonna pay off. This show is episode through episode through episode until the end is definitely going to pay off. I believe that, and I think that the creators and the writers believe that, and they have something really special here. Another line that's sung is, all good expectations come from complications. And that could be meta as well, because of course we as Marvel fans, as WandaVision fans, as Disney Plus fans or whatever, you're looking forward to this show. And with some, of course, schedule changes and delays, this show ended up being the first MCU project since Spider-Man Far From Home a year and a half ago. So this one, you know, we had expectations for it. Obviously, we're going to have expectations for like any Marvel thing, I think. But especially after one that, you know, it's been a year and a half. And that leads to complications because you have your expectations too high or maybe too low, you know. And I think this one maybe let a lot of people down. Did not let me down, obviously. You've heard me talk about it so much. I love it. And then I think it also is not only meta, but I think it is, you know, talking about Wanda. I think she has expectations to stay in this reality that she's creating or someone's making her create or whatever's happening here. We'll get to more of that later, of course. She wants to stay in this. She has expectations. She may not always meet those expectations with what she's creating, and that's going to lead to complications. Alright, so another line in this trailer is, some sudden surprises come in all shapes and sizes. This is, you know, very important because not only is it sung, but while it's sung, you know, you see kind of clips of Herb. And we'll find out later Herb may know more than is letting on. All these people may know more than is letting on. So that's a surprise that comes in all different shapes and sizes because you have Agnes that probably knows more than she's letting on. Of course, Geraldine does, and Herb. Probably Dottie, everyone in here. You never know if it's, well, we don't know if it's everyone or some people. Some are maybe held against their will. You don't know. So I really liked that part of the theme song. And I didn't have much of a theory about it, but I wanted to bring it up. The pregnancy book that Vision is reading in this theme song, you know, the cover is a little odd. I think that it means something to another character or anything. I didn't really look much into it, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing if it's a symbol or a, you know, metaphor for something bigger. The last thing I want to talk about in this theme song, you've seen it in the previews for this show, is Agnes riding the bike, and the theory surrounding who Agnes is, who I of course believe is Agatha Harkness. I think that that's true. A witch, you know, she's riding the bike, and with or without that theory, this reminded me of the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz. Just a great movie. But her riding that bike and the laugh we hear in another preview when, you know, Vision kind of snaps her out of that trance in the car and she's dressed as a witch. I think this theory is spot on. So now let's move on from the theme song to the opening scene. We get the Doctor and Vision in Wanda's home. He's examining her. Some funny 70s banter, of course. Great sitcom stuff. Again, they just do a great job in emulating this time period, this era, and the sitcoms that encompass it. Just very, very, very well done. Brilliantly done. Really, just acting, this directing, this writing, the cinematography. I just can't praise this show enough. Vision is confused about how this happened, and the Doctor, you know, the stereotypical line we see everywhere, when a man and woman love each other very much. And then we kind of get into another theme of the show, which fits in with these 50s, 60s, and 70s shows, is, you know, kind of demeaning women, or that women, you know, belong, I don't believe this, obviously. Women, like, belong, oh, they should be a perfect housewife in the kitchen. Oh, they should be cleaning, taking care of the kids, cooking. They should be doing all the housework. Just the perfect housewife to cater to the husband's needs. And, of course, I mean, back then, women were seen as less. And still, you have to be faithful to this time period, especially to the sitcoms of the time period. And I think they are playing with these tropes very fabulously. So the Doctor says, we compare each pregnancy stage to fruit. It makes it more simple for them, referring to Wanda women. You see that throughout these episodes, and I'm sure we're going to see it more, is, you know, we see that. And I think that this show is bringing that to light and making fun of how, you know, dumb that sounds and how dumb it looks looking back at it now. The Doctor's name is Dr. Nielsen. I'm wondering if that has something to do with anything. The only thing I really think of right now is Nielsen ratings for television. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe not. Like I said, I just kind of go through every line, every image with a fine-tooth comb. So Vision walks the doctor out. He sees Herb trimming the bushes, just a normal background character, neighborly thing to do in a sitcom, just trimming the bushes. So the doctor leaves, and Vision looks over at Herb, and Herb is just like totally unaware, it seems, almost like a glitch in whatever this is. And Herb is literally trimming the brick fence. He's not even noticing anything. He's not noticing what he's doing. Vision calls him out on it, and he is brought back kind of, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess I am. Thanks, buddy." And it's very odd and kind of unsettling. And we've seen, of course, these scenes before, and we are gonna get to more later. I am so excited. So Vision goes inside, and Wanda is bigger now. So obviously the pregnancy is just, going at this unbelievable and magical and speed of light rate, basically. It is not 9 months. She just got pregnant. So she's bigger. He's about to examine. He's about to tell her that something weird is happening outside with her, but then he notices she's bigger. She drops the papaya. There's a funny joke about, "Oh, I'm going to be a great papaya, Papa." Then it goes to Wanda and Vision. Vision's reading about pregnancy and being a father and a mother and how to do it and everything, while Wanda is magically setting up the nursery. She puts the table together. She puts the crib together in the mobile with the butterflies over it. She's painting a stork on the wall. Wanda has her first kick, and then this is when, of course, Vision's freaked out, and I love his reactions to all of this. He doesn't understand what's going on. So then they have this kind of little witty, banter and argument about, not argument so much, but about the kids' names, Billy and Tommy. Vision wants Billy. Wanda wants Tommy, more traditional American name. Vision wants to kind of, name his son after William Shakespeare. And then he says a quote. And I didn't think about this quote at the first viewing. And I haven't seen anyone mention it. I doubt that no one's mentioned it. But the quote is, "All the world's a stage. All the men and women merely players." Now that is some great dialogue, some great foreshadowing, great hint, whatever you want to call it, at what is going on here. I think that is exactly what's going on. I think Wanda set this stage up in this kind of town, an imaginary, a fantasy. She set this stage, and the neighbors, the enemies, her friends, her Vision, whatever he is, if he's her consciousness, she has set this stage, and she is controlling somewhat these players. They're just merely players on this stage that she's created. A contraction happens. Wanda's powers are, like the description says, on the fritz throughout this episode. Like the faucet's turning on, the ice maker's going off. You'll see pictures spinning around on the wall. Just a lot of stuff is going on when she's having these contractions. So the power goes off at the end of the scene, and then we cut to a really funny scene, but also a scene that I think has a nice hint, kind of Easter egg at what's going on. So Phil, one of the neighbors, Dottie's husband that we met in, the first episode, he got fired. So anyway, he's reading the newspaper. The newspaper headline says 2 hydrants added to Main Street. Think about it, hydrants. Hydra agents, and they're added to Main Street. I think that obviously, I think it means something. I don't think that these creators put anything in these episodes, by coincidence. I mean, obviously there was probably going to be some, but I think that they purposely crafted this headline and put it right in there so where we can see it, but it's not the main focus of that scene. So the funny part is he is just reading the newspaper. Dottie walks in and she's like, "Do these earrings make me look fat?" And he looks at her, and then the power goes off from what Wanda was experiencing and doing. The power goes off, and he turns his head back to the back, and then he's like, "Oh, thank God." I just thought that was so funny and well done. So this is where we get a kind of a weird cut. Like before, you would get the rewind, function. Wanda would rewind something if something was a little off or compromising her fantasy. And in this, we kind of get a quick cut. Now, I did see something that a reviewer said, which I definitely like, is because it went to a different decade, we rewinded stuff different. We kind of went from different scenes. I actually don't know if in the 70s, if it was that early, if you can go from scene to scene. But anyway, so that's why this cut was so fast. I definitely love that. See, there's so much thought and detail that goes into this show. These creators, writers, directors, actors, they just put so much brilliant work in this show. I definitely agree with one of my reviewers that I watched, Griff Shriller on FilmSpeak. He said pure brilliance, and his line was put in actual TV spots and actual ads for the show, and Paul Bettany himself actually retweeted it. I thought that was so cool, but I agree with him. We have a lot of the same opinions. I love it. I think this show is pure brilliance. Vision is worried. He kind of, says that to Wanda. She's looking worried and nervous. She doesn't want this. This is kind of compromising her. He's like, maybe something is strange is going down here, because he's like, with Mr. and Mr. Hart at dinner, with Herb out in, hedging, it rewinds back, and Vision doesn't bring up his concerns. He just says something that's assuring to Wanda. I thought the cut was odd, but now that I understand that, if that is what they were doing, which I have no doubt that is what they were actually doing, I think it's brilliant. So Wanda has more contractions, and Vision floats up in the air of nervousness. It's just a really funny and well done scene, and it looks great. The effects of this episode look great, but they also look like they kind of fit in with the 70s, era, the feel of it. So this is where it gets kind of interesting, not the full interesting that we're getting into later in this episode. Wanda's water breaks, and water rains down from the ceiling, just constantly, like it's raining inside. And she's like, my water broke. Then it cuts to one of the commercials that we've been seeing. But this one was about a bath bomb kind of soap, Hydra soak. Hydra soak. And I think that the placement of these ads definitely means something. Because think about it, for this one, her water broke. Then she has a ad. Then there's an ad in this show that has to do with water and washing and soaking. Then after this ad, the water's still going down, but she finally dries herself off and dries everything off. I'm looking forward to see what it means for the future and what it means in this overall arc. The narrator's like, do you need a break? And she, the woman in the commercial, and these are the same actors from the other commercials, just looking different costumes, obviously, to fit the time and the commercial. So she's like, you read my mind, like the Mind Stone. And I think that it's gonna, obviously work into this show somehow. There's just so many things you can find in this show. I love it. Anyway, the guy is like, come with me, escape to a world all your own, where your problems float away. When you want to get away, but you don't want to go anywhere. And then Hydra Soak is the name of the product, and find the goddess within. So much good imagery here. And the overall meaning, it adds to the overall meaning of this show. Wanda's going to be a goddess. She's going to feel like a goddess. And she's also obviously making her own getaway, her own world that she can call her own, just like this commercial said. There's another funny part when they're like, we should get the doctor. And Vision's like, well, I hope he didn't leave on vacation yet. And she's like, well, at a time like this. And then he's like, well, in all fairness, dear, we are 9 months early. Thought that was really funny. Well-written dialogue, again, emulates this time period. So Vision runs. He leaves to get the doctor, at full speed. And Wanda starts to hear something in the nursery. Kind of a bird sound. We find out it's a stork. She's going to check it out, but then the doorbell rings. And she's pregnant. She doesn't want anyone in the town knowing that she's pregnant, especially going at this fast rate of pregnancy and getting into labor so quick. So she puts on a coat, and this is the start of just a masterful scene of conveying these tropes, making fun of them, but also, tributing, being a tribute to the times. It's hard. So anyway, she wears this big coat. She opens the door. It's Geraldine. Geraldine is great here. Teyonah Parris, amazing in this episode. Very talented. Now, she was good in the last episode where she was introduced, but in this episode she has a lot more to do. And a lot more meaning to the overall story. We find out a lot more coming up. And I think this is when this episode really just gets amazing. I mean, I love this whole episode. I love the first 2 episodes, but this is really where we pick up and get more from what maybe people were expecting. So anyway, Geraldine wants a bucket because her pipes burst in her apartment, and everything's getting wet, obviously. Wanda's like, stay here, I'll go in the kitchen and get a bucket. Wanda goes to the kitchen. She has a contraction, though, and it switches clothes for those two. She has two contractions. It keeps switching clothes. Geraldine's wondering what's going on. She's going into the kitchen. Wanda's like, no. She throws whatever the new coat in off, and she grabs a bowl of fruit, puts it in front of her baby bump. Like I said, this trope, when actresses got pregnant, but their character wasn't supposed to be pregnant, they had to find, unique ways, sometimes not that great of ways, to hide the baby bump because that doesn't fit in with the character or the overall arc. So she has a bowl of fruit. Geraldine sees that and she's like, oh, thank you. She grabs an apple. A stork comes in as Geraldine's about to leave, but Geraldine wanted to tell Wanda a story, but she's like, oh, never mind, I don't want to bother you. And then Wanda's like, no, tell me the story, because she doesn't want Geraldine to see the stork. So Geraldine sits down and is telling her the story about getting promoted at work. And I think that means something very extra. I think that maybe Monica Rambeau, who we know who Geraldine really is, Monica Rambeau, the little girl from Captain Marvel, all grown up. I think that maybe whatever she's working for, whoever she's working for, if she's working for S.W.O.R.D., which we'll get to in a second, if she's working for S.W.O.R.D., I think that is something special. And I think that promotion is really telling Wanda kind of about the promotion she got at S.W.O.R.D. or whatever organization. So the stork is almost like getting at Geraldine, and Wanda is, of course, distracting Geraldine the best she could, trying to get her to disappear with making red smoke come up, and the stork does not disappear. The stork kind of goes into the nursery. Geraldine gets up. She wants office supplies, so she starts to walk into the nursery. She does walk into the nursery, but the stork gets up on the painting, right in front of the painting, and just blends in with that painting. But Monica's about to see the crib. And also with the stork and everything, I think it's playing into the trope of sitcoms where sometimes characters don't notice something that's obvious and that they should definitely notice. So the stork is pulling at her pant. Like, no way is she not noticing that. Or noticing the stork in her peripheral. But anyway, I think that's just playing with the trope. Another, example of the brilliance of this show. And Geraldine sees the crib. Wanda quickly grabbed a vase, but she has a contraction and she drops the vase. And Geraldine sees that she's pregnant. And then the contractions start to get heavy. So Vision gets to the doctor's. The doctor can't leave. His car won't start, which we'll get to in a second. Vision, picks up the doctor, basically, and runs full speed. And I think that's also playing into a trope, because, I feel like that would have come up again. I mean, yeah, the doctor kind of said, as long as we go, actually walk this time. And it felt like I was flying. He just kind of accepts it. But anyway, Vision runs full speed. Wanda starts going into labor before Vision gets there. The pictures are spinning, the ice maker's going off, the chandelier falls. Monica, notices all this. And Geraldine is like, I'm late to the party, but I'm sure there's a logical explanation of all of this. Wanda's like, it's all perfectly natural. She's screaming, she's going into labor. So this dialogue portion that I'm going to go through, I could be looking too much into it, but I think it means something. Now, granted, this is normal dialogue that characters would say during a pregnancy, labor scene, giving birth. They would say this stuff. But, she was like, you can do this, you can do this. Wanda was like, I can't. She's like, you can do this. Push, Wanda, push. I think that just means something like, you can do this, Wanda. You can let Vision go. You can let your brother go. You can let your family go. You can let whatever go. And grieve properly. And that's what I took from it. You can do this. And to push. You gotta push the feelings out of yourself. You gotta, you gotta convey those feelings in a healthy and appropriate way. Not whatever is going on in the show. That's how I took it. Like I said, with a lot of this stuff and a lot of stuff last episode, I could be thinking way too much into this show, but I think this show asks for that. The first baby is a boy. And then the Doctor and Vision get there. Doctor's like, it felt like I was flying, as Geraldine takes him into the kitchen. And then there's a really surreal and, adorable moment where Wanda is like, don't you want to see your son as yourself? Vision looks around, turns into himself. Kind of another sitcom-y thing. The other people are just in the other room. They could just glance over and see it. And obviously Vision just ran full speed with the Doctor. And obviously Geraldine just witnessed all of that other stuff. Vision shows himself as the android to his son, and it's a very adorable moment. Then Wanda screams, and Vision screams. It's a very funny moment, and another baby comes out. The first one, Vision says Tommy, which was Wanda's pick. And then the second baby, they name Billy. You have a line where the doctor's like to Geraldine, oh, you could be a nurse. Another kind of, sexist line. I mean, she just delivered a whole baby on her own. Vision walks the doctor out, and then this is where it really starts to heat up. The doctor is like, I don't think we'll get away after all. Small towns. So hard to escape. Vision obviously finds the oddness in that. The way the doctor says it is compelling and intriguing me to know more about this situation and how each character, can they leave? Can they not leave? Do they have control over themselves? Do they not have control over themselves? Do they have control over themselves sometimes, but not all the time? It's so intriguing to me. Compelling stuff. The doctor leaves, and Agnes and Herb are like having like a secret conversation at the hedge. Vision says howdy. They say howdy back in their normal sitcom voices, and he thinks that's odd, so he decides, because they turn back to each other and start talking again. So he goes to them, he's like, remarkable day we're having. They're like, yes, yeah. And then Agnes is like, is Geraldine inside? Vision's like, yes, why? I just love from here on. I mean, I know I said that already. I love this so much. Definitely a big fan. And I think a lot of people are really going to gravitate towards this scene and think that, oh, it's definitely improving for them, for the people that did not love the first 2 episodes. Geraldine is like, you're such a strong lady. I can't believe you have twins, basically. Like, aw, twins. And then Wanda says seriously and, emotionally, I'm a twin. I had a brother. His name was Petro. He died. And I just love the mention of Petro. Then we get a mention of Ultron in a minute. That's why I have my Ultron Blu-ray out right now. So Wanda starts singing in Sokovian to the twins for a few seconds, and then Geraldine drops the bomb. He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? Oof. Loved that. Oof. I get chills. Just love that they mentioned another character, 2 characters, and a movie. They referenced another movie in the overall MCU, and this is just expanding the universe now. Love it. Wanda is like, seriously, in a scared kind of voice, but intimidating. She gets very intimidating here. Elizabeth Olsen is brilliant. So, she's like, what did you say? And it's popping back and forth between Wanda with Geraldine inside, and then Vision with Agnes and Herb outside. So Herb and Agnes are like talking to Vision. Herb is like, she's new to town, brand new. Agnes is like, there's no family, no husband. Vision's like, well, there's nothing wrong with that, because there's nothing wrong with that. And Agnes is just like, no home. Just in a very not sitcom-y, not her own happy, nosy self sitcom voice. Vision is like, what? Then we get back inside. Wanda's like, what did you say just now? Geraldine was like, you're such a strong lady. Do you want me to say it again for good measure? Trying to be more sitcom-y, trying to get back into the character. Wanda's like, what did you say about Petro? Geraldine's like, Petro? She's nervous. She's getting scared. She doesn't know what to say. She's, stumbling over words. Wanda's like, I think you should leave. Geraldine, in her not happy, not sitcom-y demeanor, says, okay, Wanda, don't be like that. Ooh. Then Wanda notices, and we notice, a necklace on Geraldine, and it's the sword symbol. The sword symbol. The symbol, again, that we've seen throughout these episodes. We've seen symbols throughout these 3 episodes. We'll see them again and again. But the sword symbol, we see it again on her necklace. Then we're outside. Vision's like, what do you mean she has no home? Herb is like, she came here because. And he wants to say something about what is going on. And he's like, she came here because we're all... Now it's going back and forth between Wanda and Geraldine and Vision, Agnes, and Herb a lot faster. Wanda is asking about the necklace. What is that? Who are you? Geraldine is stumbling over words. She's terrified, and Elizabeth Olsen portrays such an intimidating and villainous almost demeanor in this scene. Greatly performed by her and Geraldine. And of course outside, Vision, Herb, and Agnes. We get Wanda. She walks up to intimidate her more. She walks up to Geraldine. Then we go back outside. Agnes is like, Herb, no, you can't. Then she turns around and her sitcom demeanor is like, well, I gotta go. And some sitcom trope line. And then rides off on her bicycle that I mentioned earlier. So Herb is like, well, see you, Vision. And then just walks inside. Vision is flabbergasted. He has no idea what's going on. We have no idea what's going on now. Vision walks inside and asks, where's Geraldine? And Wanda's just at the twins, just looking all sorts of evil, all sorts of intimidating, all sorts of scary. Whew, it gave me chills. It really did. She's just in her facial expressions. And then she says, like, kind of in her sitcom voice, but kind of in her regular voice, oh, she left, honey. She had to rush home. The screen ratio expands. We get an outside shot in the dark. Well, at night. Outside shot at night. There's a sign that says Westview, which is the name of this town. You see a force field. You see Geraldine, or Monica Rambeau, fly out of the force field, land on the ground. Daydream Believer plays. It just has so much meaning to it. Daydream, Wanda's in this daydream or whatever. She's in this fantasy. And then the military, or like military cars and vehicles and helicopters are, swarming around and surrounding Monica. We end the episode. It says, please stand by at the credits, just like always. And then we get the credits. Such a great episode. An amazing episode, and adds to the intrigue and suspense of it all. And I almost know this show is going to pay off. And if this show finishes the way I can picture this finishing, being a true character study to Wanda, and hopefully other characters as well, I think really explore Wanda, Scarlet Witch's, psyche. I think this can be a purely brilliant show, even more than I already think it is. Just a great addition to the MCU, one of MCU's best projects. I know, I'm saying that now, though. I think it could become that. Not a lot of people are going to agree with me. I still think that either they should have at least released these 3 episodes at once, because I think that it definitely fits. 3 episodes can be Act 1, the middle 3 episodes, Act 2, then we have, 3 episodes at the end that are Act 3, and I believe probably where all the special effects are going to go into, most of them. We already have a bunch, and I think that it's going to pay off tremendously. And another thing I love that I kind of touched on is the Easter eggs and the clues and the lines. You can really pick this show apart. You can pick everything that's said and shown apart and give it a double meaning. And I love that about this show. Each time I notice something different, or I watch a review or read an article and someone is pointing out something different that's true, or a theory that is going to be amazing if that comes true, or parts of it come true. There's just so much building blocks in this show that just add to the overall intrigue of it. And this is something I didn't even think of until someone brought it up, but every time something compromises Wanda's perfect life, she changes decades. Think about it, every episode is a different decade after something, compromises her. I think that that's just amazing as well. So I definitely love picking apart Wanda. I'm not really going to get into my theory because it hasn't changed that much, but it's changed enough where I think Wanda is more in control now, I will say. I think she's more in control than we thought she was. And I think that it is hard to get into this bubble, because obviously Monica was thrown out, and Agnes and Herb didn't know, she was new there. They didn't expect it, and maybe that's what Herb was going to say. They're all trapped. So that's my theory. Wanda has more control than we would like to think at the time. I just think this could be a great character study on Wanda. I really do. And Elizabeth Olsen is perfect for it. As is Paul Bettany, Teyonah Parris, Kathryn Hahn, and all the other supporting actresses and actors. So just closing thoughts. Loved this episode. Loved the first 3 episodes. I think they fit great, like I said, as a arc. We have the part 1, the first 3 episodes, part 2, the middle episodes. Then we have part 3, the finale. And I am so excited to see what else this show has in store. I recommend it, of course. Obviously, you see how much I love this show. I put so much work into these deep dives every week so far, and I'm going to continue to do the deep dives, not the non-spoiler reviews. So there's just going to be deep dives. I'm going to try to get those out to you as early as Friday. If you liked what I've had here, here's all my WandaVision content all around, and the WandaVision playlist, and other reviews you might like, and my subscribe button. Please like this video if you liked it. Hit those comment sections up and blow them up. Hit that notification bell so you can stay notified. Subscribe and come to the Upside Dan.